Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fresh Crits of Melbourne. Fresh off Australian Masters win, we're back at Glenvale at the church for Pride Round to basically get my head kicked in and get brought back to reality. So we skipped pretty much right to the thick of this race as we see Dino going backwards there, 26 minutes in, and leading up until this point, it's been attack after attack. It's classic Glenvale stuff, you know. The guys have been training really, really hard in the off-season, and they've come to the first race, and the egos are high, and people are flexing early, showing all the training that they've done on Zwift in the off-season. But in reality, they come out here, and it's a bit of a reality check. So, a couple of things that have changed at Glenvale. You might have noticed it there. There's been a little bit of roadworks on the fourth corner, the last corner coming into the main straight. So there's a bit of a nasty bump right in the apex of that corner, which makes cornering a little bit more difficult, I suppose. And so please make sure you hit that subscribe and that like button, because I'm going to be putting together a bit of a follow-up video on that specific issue. So make sure you subscribe for that one. So like I said before, 27 minutes into this race, a little breaks up the road, and I've done a soft pedal attack and managed to roll off the front with a half a second gap or whatever it might be. So Mosby's joined from 99 Bikes with me. Now, before I talk a little bit about what's going on up the road, let's talk a little bit about the course itself. The wind direction specifically plays a huge part in this. It was an absolutely screaming wind. Right down the main straight, it was headwind, brutal. So it was really important that you timed your turns well so that, you know, you're sitting in the wheels as much as possible. Behind me, we've got Brent here. He also raced over at Masters, and basically with this little form, this little group we've got with us, all Masters athletes. The crew's come back. So we've got Brent here, we've got Mosby coming up, and who's this? No other than Joshy Stevens, another hitter from Masters, and following up. And in the rear cam, you can see there, Josh Brooker from Cycle Speed, another Masters athlete, also making his way across. Now, it's all well and good to have all the boys here, but the big issue that sticks out in my mind is we've got none of the quote-unquote hitters in this group. So we've got none of the young 20-something boys that are absolutely flying, have been in Europe. So I'm a little bit concerned with this, because it's all well and good to have us here. The band is going to be high, the motivation is going to be really, really good, but you really need that extra bit of firepower, because if that firepower's back in the bunch, well then they're going to be able to ride us back in absolute no time. And I tell you what else would be handy to ride yourself back in a race like this is some brand new wheels. Now, Fresh Crits is fortunate enough to try out some of the Winspace Hyper D67 wheel set, which is like 60mm front, 70mm rear. Perfect for crit races. So here's a little bit of a promo code. Check that out and drop that in there for $100 off. But now, none of that. Let's skip forward in this race to see what happens to this lovely Masters break. No surprise to anyone, that break was brought back pretty quickly, and I guess the main takeaway from this video, especially considering that we're racing against really, really strong individuals that are going to be up on the main stage come Nationals in early January, is that if you're not as fit as these guys, we only have a certain amount of matches to burn, so don't waste them. To put this in real terms, I reckon I've got 4, maybe 5 big efforts to burn in a 60-minute crit. Whilst you see guys that are in form, like Ryan Schild, he's got absolute dozens, so he can waste as many attacks as he likes, but he's also a very crafty rider, and he knows when he needs to go, and that's what makes him such a threat come down at Glenvale. So with that in mind, let's skip right to the back end of this race with only a few minutes left to see how I use those last few matches in order to make some places in this race. All right, we're back, and I've been swinging off the back for the last 20 minutes in this race. It has been hot. There's been little breaks up the road, mixing in between people, and I've just been swinging off the back. There's been zero control. I'm just a passenger at this stage, and that's fine too. But I'm in good company. You can see we've got Bentley in the green kit just in front of Tom, who's also in the EF green kit here, and Derek on the right. So I'm in some good company here, but I'm not at the front of the race by any means, and it's only at this moment where the peloton rather slows down, it swells, is when I'm like, all right, I'm going to burn a match and try to move my way up. Also notice Ryan Schultz in the rear cam there. Nice, calm, collected, composed. He's not worried about the race with only 5 minutes left in this. He's more than happy to be sitting in the bunch, which in all honesty is something that I should be looking at as well, to be honest. I think, and if you're in any local crit that you're racing in, if you can identify who the strong hitters are, follow them around the course for as long as you can, just to see what they do. I think that's a really good way to learn as we enter this last corner onto the straight. Manage ourselves over the bump, keeping nice and loose on the bars, piano fingers on the bars, that you don't want to be gripping too tight and blocking your elbows out. So there's a bit of a move up the road. Josh has been caught on the front, and the peloton is absolutely strung out, knowing full well 5.8 Ks to go. This is the headwind part of the course, so it's important you are finding a wheel, which is exactly what I'm not doing. Do as I say, not as I do. We come that second corner here, there's still a lot of looking around going on. A lot of the guys are looking for these key riders. I think that's what it might be, but it doesn't stop the rest of us from just getting on with it and looking up the road and chasing down those breaks. And like we said before, we're 5.5 Ks left into this race, so it is coming into the final stages 100%. And it's as this moment occurs, I see a really nice move go up the road, and I'm in a pretty nice space. A really nice spot, right at the front of the group. I may as well try to do what I can to get across to that, because I reckon I can stay away from the group for 3 minutes. The move looks quite threatening with 3 strong riders in there. Derek also notices this is a really good move, so he comes across with me. We have a bit of a chat saying, do you reckon this is worth it? He gets a nod, and I'm happy to do a little bit of work to get across here. Up the road just ahead is Adam. Watch as he comes around this corner. He gets a nasty bit of wind gust, throws his bike. We all get pushed out to the right. Really sketchy moment there coming into this final straight, and he puts the absolute hammer down. And this is the difference between those really strong, heavier riders. They're able to just push out huge amounts of watts on the flat whilst I'm suffering. I ask him to ease up. My heart rate's at 184 beats. I shout ease as I'm trying to roll in front, 616 watts just to try to get over. There's no need. And he's identified that this move could be the one, so he's doing whatever he can to get across. Meanwhile, look in the rear cam behind. The group is splintering apart. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. We're 58 minutes into this race with only 3 minutes to go. Was this a good move? Do you think this was the move to jump in with we've got 5 riders up the road? Do you think this is the one, or should I have stayed in the break and just hope and prayed that someone else would have done the work to get across? Now, in hindsight, bad call jumping in this move. I should have stayed in. I should have followed those strong riders, and that takes us back to the point I made earlier. Try to identify who those key riders are in this race. Just follow them around the course, see what they do. I think that's the best way to learn, because at this stage, 4Ks to go, 183 beats. I'm absolutely cooked. Ryan comes up on the outside here and just blows straight over the top of me. Followed by a couple of the other boys from Mornington. We've got Bentley in the rear cam as well, Lombardi. All the hitters are here. Meanwhile, I'm blowing chunks. I'm absolutely done. I am going to be shot straight back out the back door where I came from. And that is pretty much lights out for me at Glenvale. 3.6 Ks to go, and 3.6 Ks too early. Well, make sure you take lessons from me on this one, because there was no need for me to do that. I had that one last match. If I'd saved it, who knows what could have happened. Pretty sure I would have been blown away by some of these sprinter boys, but at least I probably would have been up at the front contesting the sprint as opposed to just surviving. Whilst you see up the front, the boys are really starting to string things out now, and this is where the cream rises to the top. All those strong riders always magically find their way in the top 10 wheels here right when it counts. But it isn't until, I think it might be Bentley on the front, puts the final dagger into the peloton as he absolutely jams it in this crosswind section, is when the group completely splits apart. You can see here it's shattered across the road, with the bulk of the strongest riders now with a good 5-second gap, maybe less than that, up the road here. The rest of the peloton is required to put in those extra hard strokes just to get across with it. But that's so hard to do because at the moment at Glenvale, there's such a big gap between those top 5 to 10 riders and the rest of us. It makes it so hard. You can see how close we are to getting across, but 184 beats, I don't have the legs to get across that. Maybe in hindsight, I should have, because look how close it is. They're only a few bike lengths away, but I'm just absolutely done. And that's one of those things. That's what separates the strongest riders. That's what separates the people that have had a really, really strong base period. That's what separates people that have been training over in Europe and now, is they have the ability to pull themselves across to that break right when it counts, right when there's everything on the line, instead of being shot out the back door like I am now. So 2Ks left. We've probably got about, we've probably got the second lap. We're about to get the bell lap shortly, and that's night for the race. So guys, look, I'm going to wrap it up here. There's no real need to continue on. I think the result tells for itself. You can see the face on Tom. Everyone's pretty flat about it. But look, thanks again for watching, guys. Please make sure you like and subscribe. It does the channel a hell of a lot of good. Check me out on the socials. Oh, and I forgot to mention this before. If you did want to try out a couple of those WinSpace wheels, I've got some spare sets at home. So hit me up in the comments on the socials and we can sort you out that way as well. So thanks again for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time, ciao.
Well done. Hey, solid performance.
I don't think yesterday the dozen beers and sitting in the sun all day probably didn't help. I think it helped.